What's going on, people? Welcome back to the match preview as we look ahead to the game on the weekend against Brentford. I'm joined by AJ for the preview. Everyone else is somewhere doing something with their lives. We're recording on Valentine's Day. I'm probably the only single one out of the group, but AJ's still here. AJ didn't leave us. He's still he's still with me. But as always, if you do enjoy the content, make sure to leave a like, subscribe. And also let us know your thoughts on the game in the comment section down below. AJ, how you feeling, man? Today's Lover's Day. How you feeling? Are you feeling
Well,
excited?
good. Lucky for me,
Relax?
I've got a lovely, understanding partner that knows that Palace has its priorities in life. So you get me. And when
You're
it comes to
lucky.
backing
You
and
got a
lifting,
keeper.
I'm there. Innit? I got a
You got a
good keeper,
keeper.
mate.
Yeah,
I got a better
exactly.
keeper than quite a rude boy. You get me?
Well, on the weekend you're saving us, so that must be
In
a very good keeper because
it,
Guire
man. I
was
done
saving
well,
us.
bro. I done well.
Exactly. But talking about Palace, we ain't really doing well in terms of results. Well, in terms of points and maybe wins, we could do a bit better. But look, let's talk about this game. How are we feeling? Because it's another tough game. Brentford are doing well in the league. They've managed just to get a point against Arsenal, one of the most informed sides so far in the season. But how do you see this game being in terms of difficulty in comparison to Brighton?
I think there'll be similarities because obviously Brentford have got a few danger areas in their squad. However, it looks like, based on what I'm seeing on social media this week, that we've got our dangers back. So it's looking good. It looks like Anderson might actually potentially be fit. It's looking like Wilf will definitely be back in the selection process as well. Hopefully, we'll see a bit more of Lokonga and Ahamada as well. They look really, really positive and bright coming on. Obviously, there's a few eyebrows around certain players in the squad. Obviously, that's unavoidable, isn't it? But the manager's going to make his choice and make his decisions. I mean, he's got to do the best he's got with what he has. And, it looks like we're kind of stuck in this 12th place position in the league, no matter whether we win, lose, or draw, to be fair. So I'm not worried yet. I'm not panicking yet, man. I think we're all right, man. I feel like Brentford is a team we can get a point or two off. You don't know. So, it's been good seeing that with whatever we've put on the pitch, even if it's been particularly a bad display, that we're actually generating a few chances. Despite how you may feel about certain players in the team, certain manner, we're not gone to sleep yet. We've not given up yet. Hopefully, we're looking up the table rather than down it. So I'm feeling relatively quite positive. Ask me on Friday. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Look, I think when you look at the game in comparison to Brian, I feel like we disrespected Brian, not us two, but as a fan base. I know they played us not off the park, but they played very good against us. But you can't just look at names. So far this season, if you look at the name Brentford or Brian, you're thinking, oh wow, we should be able to go beat them. But it's not straightforward. Brentford and Brighton have both been on form this season. So going into this game, I think we have to give them respect to how they've been performing and the results that they've been getting. But we'll be talking about the league table and also Brentford in more detail later on in the show. But you mentioned some players that potentially could be back. But from what you saw against Brighton, would you want any changes? Because for me, there's a few, of course. If Anderson is fit, Anderson should start. As well as Tompkins done a solid job, Anderson should start. I think he helps us not only defensively but also with his distribution, and he gives us another option like that. You can argue Lokonga. Is it time to start him because we got him on loan for 6 months and he's had a few games now coming off the bench. He looked a bit positive as well when he did come on. But for you, of course, Will, I think everyone can agree that Will starts if he's fit. Would you make any other changes going into this game? Maybe a bit more positive players?
Yeah,
Am I right in saying that?
I think depends on obviously what's going on, but with fitness and injuries, because obviously the Richards omission was a bit of a surprise one. So educated guess he's injured. I haven't really heard anything about that.
He's injured, yeah.
Yeah, so sake of argument, if Anderson's fit, reality situation is I would rather have Anderson and Gay. But that being said, Tompkins deserves his flowers because he stepped up and he obviously was very
100%.
aware to obviously get us that point on the weekend. One thing I would change, which probably a lot of people have been speaking about and is inevitable, is I actually would start giving Edouard the games now. I think it's time. Like, I think what Vieira's done over the sort of past year, 18 months-ish, is he's essentially kind of plays one and then lets them kind of have a run in the team. And then obviously he swaps and then plays the other and then lets them have a small run in the team. And based on what we've got, reality is Edouard, I believe, is actually still our top scorer, barring
Yeah, he
Wilf.
is second
So,
highest.
in all fairness, I think it's time to start giving Edouard a few games now. I think for me, Mateta's had his chance. He's, I mentioned earlier on that obviously my partner went to the game for the first time, and even she was looking at him like, he's got some spaghetti legs. He looks very clumsy. So taking that from somebody that doesn't even know football like that, you know what I mean? To be able to
I can't
clock
say
that
anything because
there
if
was
I do,
somebody
it's an
there.
agenda. That's why I can't say anything about Mateta.
All right.
I've
Do you
said
know
a
what,
lot,
right?
but yeah.
On the agenda side of things, I've always historically backed Mateta over Edouard, at least in recent times. But I think for me, I think it's time to give Edouard some chances. I know I always talk about he always wants the ball to feet, and the reality of the situation is we're not crossing the ball in the box for them to be generating Mateta headers anyway. And Mateta is not even winning the ball in the box. I saw somebody mention something on
We're at the
social media
halfway
the other
line.
day about when he jumps, he looks shorter than he actually physically is, which is wild. So I think we need to try something a bit different because Brentford are going to be a technical team anyway. They're going to know how to handle the ball in the air and they're going to know how to play out the front and back. They're capable of that. So I think it's time to give Eddie some chances, man, and see what he can do. That's the big one I'd do. Or if he's insisting on playing both, play both of them up front, at least depending on what we've got availability-wise. But I think now that we've got a few more players back in midfield, McCarthy's obviously back in the fold. We've still got Lokonga and Amada there. So if we're going to go with one up front and the two wingers, I think he's got to go Ayew, Elise, and Edouard for now until Wilf obviously slowly progresses his way back into the squad. I have no idea what level of fitness he's at. And then obviously, it's got to be said, bro, you got to drop Schlupp. Like in an ideal world, I'd drop Schlupp, but Vieira's got his players that he favors for a reason. So here we are,
played
man.
well against United, but it was quiet against Brighton. So yeah, look, that's the thing with some of these players. They will be inconsistent because they're not at the level that we need, and that's the problem. That's why we've been inconsistent as a team because some of these players are not good enough to play consistently, like as they've been doing in certain games throughout the season. It's very inconsistent. So that's with Schlupp, I thought we've done a solid job against United. Could have done better against Brighton, but with Wilf is back and fit, I think Wilf plays. But look, I don't know about you, AJ, but I would like Vieira to be a bit more ambitious in this game. I'm not saying go high pressing, all out attack. Let's go back to how Palace were before. But against Brighton, I understood it because of the changes, because of the plays that were missing. But if we even have one of Wilf or Anderson back in this game, I would like him to go for it. Because, I mean, we slowly need to start picking up points. I mean, our squad was limited against Brighton. I understand that, and that's why you approach a game like that. But against Brentford, I want to see us take the game to Brentford a bit more, even though it's away from home. I want to see something a bit different in this game. And the reason for that is we can look at the league table, as we always do before the games happen in the pre-game show. So the pre-game game week 23, you can see that Palace are currently sitting 12th. If we win, could go up to 11th potentially, but a draw could take us down to 15th, and a loss can also take us down to 15th. So when you look at the league table, I'm not saying I'm worried about relegation, but against teams like Brentford, as much as I'm giving them respect, I'd like us to try and go for the win because I don't think we've done that against Brighton, and I'm not blaming Vieira for that.
No, I agreed. Same. I mean, the Vieira's doing the best he can with what he's got anyway. And I think we all got a bit smoke screened last summer, not summer that just went in his first summer, where we bring in so much young, unknown, essentially bargained talent. We didn't maximize that in the summer. It is what it is. Like we definitely didn't maximize that in January alone, and one potential for the future ain't enough to cut it. Obviously, do we write off the season and then obviously bank on whatever we do in the summer? I'm not a fan of it personally. Like I think you just have to operate with the best you can with what you've got, and agreed in the sense that he should try something different because to an extent, it is a kind of what do you have to lose mentality, like, because at this point, we've tried and tested throughout the season and it's looked quite lethargic and it's looked like the players ain't motivated. So maybe a couple new players in the squad and a couple players dropped to the bench might be the, excuse the term, kick up the arse that we need. You see what I'm saying? So
yeah,
it'd be nice to see a couple odd little changes. You know, when he did that was against United. When it was against United, it kind of like lifted everyone. And obviously, United formed that team that was on great form at that time. We were able to get a point out of them at Selhurst. And a lot of people were really excited about that. I think if we do something kind of similar for Brentford, we've actually got a shot of actually kind of throwing them off their game a little bit and obviously doing something. I mean, draws against teams we're expected to lose are cute, but eventually you got to start picking up points somewhere. Yeah, we get it. We're not chasing Europe, but our highest place finish is capable, and ambitious for place is capable. We got no more cup games. We're essentially going to be playing one game a week for the foreseeable. There's going to be an international break coming in the next 3-4 weeks. So it's now or never for Vieira to kind of just say, all right, I've got what I've got. I've got to work with what I've got. Whoever's fit, let me just play around with the system a little bit. I'm not saying go mad and change up to the formation nobody's seen before, or be attacking for the whole 90 minutes, because obviously the mentality is in one place and obviously the style of play is another. But I would definitely like to see just a few changes, man. Utilize those extra players in the squad. We got a couple of players from Frisch. Give the squad a lift, man. Even something silly like putting MacArthur on the team and just taking out a couple of players for Brentford might be enough to kind of lift the players and lift the squad. You know what I mean? Because we're gonna hit form at some point, but it's better we get these points in the bag now and start looking up the table rather than worrying about April, May, and having to sort of look over our shoulders. And then we can start worrying about rebuilding again in the summer.
I know, but he did change it about, didn't he? He did. That's why we picked up the point against Man United. It went a bit more defensive, and even against Brighton, it was a bit more defensive. But we picked up points like that. I wanted to be a bit more ambitious, but also know realistically that there's so much that you can do with the squad. Unless we have a fully fit squad, maybe then we can be a bit more ambitious than what we've been so far. But then again, I want him to go a bit more attacking. I don't think anyone would disagree with that, because we were negative against Brighton. And honestly, if that flappy hand Sanchez didn't drop the ball, there's no way we're beating Brighton, because we didn't create that many chances. We had like a few, to be fair, in first half. Mateta had a few. But it'll be good. It'll be good to see the likes of Wilf in this game, going at Brentford defenders, Elise as well. I don't know about Ebbs because he's out of form, but it'll be good rather than just having Elise out there. The likes of maybe Wilf if he's back as well, and we go for it. We try to go for the win. Of course, that higher pressing game that we've seen in the past, I don't think that's sustainable right now. It depends. It depends on the midfield. If Lukonga plays or Hamada plays, then maybe we could go high pressing, especially in midfield. But that's time for tell. But I agree with what you're saying in terms of like we should try to finish high as possible. But I feel like this squad has limitations. Even when everyone's fit, it does have limitations in terms of we might be able to play a bit more attacking and a bit more high pressing. But I don't think we can do it throughout, till the end of the season, or do it consistently week in, week out, because we're still lacking quality in certain areas of the pitch that we simply can't improve on unless we bring in players. But talking about Brentford, they're 8th in the league. They got a draw against Arsenal. In the last 5 games, they got 2 wins, 2 draws, and 1 loss. That 1 loss was against West Ham in the Cup. They're beaten Bournemouth, Southampton, drew against Leeds, drew against Arsenal. As good as they are, our reverse fixture against them was tight. And I remember we kind of bottled it because he went too defensive in that one. I don't know if you remember, but he made him subs. He made him subs, and I think it was in the 75th minute, and then they scored towards the end of the game, and then the game kind of flipped. For you, as good as they've been, as I've just said, do you think that we could go and get a win? Like, am I being a bit too worried about it? Because look, as I said, they did draw against Leeds. It's not like they won every single game. They're this side that no one could 100% beat. I mean, they could drop points, but a win, is that too much to ask for?
Nah, because I think when teams that are like Brentford and your Brightons and whatever, when they are kind of punching above their weight, essentially they will kind of have that part of a bit of a burnout or a bit of a form drop, and those drop points can come from almost anywhere. Why can't it be us? You see what I'm saying? Like, I think at the end of the day, yeah, Ivan Toney's a threat, and Bueno is the threat for me. I think they got a couple other players in that squad that are decent. The thing is, they obviously have a very strict operating system, and obviously Thomas Frank has them operating in that way.
Yeah.
But at the end of the day, it becomes strenuous. If you're even in a job at a 9 to 5 and your manager's asking you to do things to a certain standard constantly, you're gonna have drop-off moments. And I just think to myself, why can't we kind of get at them, and why can't we get the points? I think something's going to click at some point, and at one point they're going to, not even Brentford like us as such, but we're going to get it together this season, and we're going to kind of start kind of constant getting our points in and getting the odd little free. And I think out of the next couple of fixtures that we got lined up, this is one that there's points definitely grabbable here. I think a draw would be a bit. I think a loss would just wind up everybody. I think a draw would be a
you
little
can't
bit
lose.
underwhelming. But I think a win's gettable, and I think a win will just lift everything. So it won't just lift the squad; it'll lift us, and then we'll get a bit of positivity there. You see what I'm saying?
And they're thinking the same though. And when you look at our head-to-head results against them, they haven't beat us, and we haven't beaten them since they got promoted. We've had 2 0-0 draws and a 1-1 draw, which was earlier in the season. So last season we was 0-0s, and this season 1-0. So for me, I think a win probably going to be a bit difficult. I'm not really expecting a win. I think it could be another draw. We pick up points, we move on. We just have to try stay as high as possible and try pick up points here and there, and try ride the storm till the end of the season. Really, that's how I see it. But Tony, I think he's a very good player that we need to watch out for. But it all depends on our injury concerns, and that's on Anderson, Richards, and Wilf. If they're back, of course, they improve our chances. I'd like to see Richards start right back. If Anderson's fit and Richards is fit, I'd like to see Wilf start as well. And I feel like we get better defensively like that by having both of them back, and better going forward with Wilf. So I think it improves our chances. But as I said, they've got some good results. A draw against Arsenal, win against Southampton, win against Bournemouth. But they've also drawn against Leeds with Jesse Marsh in charge. So that was a kind of blip on the road. So they could have that blip here and there. But then again, realistically, I'm going for a draw. But talking about score predictions, what are you saying, AJ? Win? Draw?
Do you know what? That place ain't a fortress, you know? That place ain't a fortress, you know? It's not really an intimidating place to go play football. You know what? I'm going to go with 2-0 to Palace. It's time.
2-0. Go for a win. Yeah. Even though our previous results have been draws. Fair enough. 2-0.
Elise and Edward. Bonnet. Bonnet. I'm saying it with chest. It's time.
I'll take that, man. I think everyone will take that. I think everyone will take a 2-0 win at this point. We need to get more wins. But for me, realistically, I can see it being another. I don't know if I want to say 0-0 or 1-0. That's what I'm confused about. I might go for a 0-0 because I feel like we might be solid defensively if Anderson's back. I don't know if we'll be able to score. Maybe 1-0 Palace as well. That 1-0 is just there lurking around. But I don't think
look, man, they're not bums, man. Brentford aren't bums, man. But at the same time, man, I think they can be got at, man. I feel like
they can, but you have to give them respect. Like you have to.
Yeah, but remember, I'm not the one giving the team.
I agree. I think on a day, if we switch on, then we can beat Brentford. Just like on a day, if we switch on, we can beat Brighton. But realistically, is Wilf, Anderson, Richards all going to be back? I think that's the biggest question mark for me.
They'll play a part. Yeah, but something will have to give at some point.
Look, for me, at least get a point, and we move on to the next game, I think, which is against Liverpool or Villa, where
Liverpool, it's like Liverpool and City, mate. So we need to go get this win now. We need it because if you're looking at the next couple of fixtures after that, like you said, there's Liverpool, and Liverpool's form is mad indifferent right now. So you don't even know what version of Liverpool's going to show up. Then obviously Man City, they got a title to fight for, and I mean, those previews will be fun. That's for sure.
Basically, but until April, we're kind of screwed.
It's not looking good, bro.
Yeah.
So I think, in all fairness, if we're being realistic and depending on how the mentality's been put into the squad, yeah, this is where we need to be picking up a good 3 points just to humble things for a minute. Otherwise, it's just going to be toxic as hell, man, and we're going to start worrying and panicking. And at the end of the day, teams below us are starting to pick up form as well. It's got to be said. You can't ignore it. And obviously, I think Brentford could be got at, man. I don't think it's going to be now no 3-0, 4-0 business. And it is still their ground, and they're not dickheads. They know how to play. But we've been. It's a bit weird, man, because with Brighton, man, our performance was below par. Like it's like we had it, but we couldn't.
But I think we approached the game.
It's a hard one
because it's Brighton, and we can't lose that game. So I feel like we'll be a bit more positive in this game. But we'll see. I think we can win the game 100%. But realistically, I'm going for a draw. I think a draw. When you look at our previous results against them, when you look at their results as well in the last 5 games, they've drawn against Arsenal, drawn against Leeds. I know they beat Bournemouth, Southampton. They lost against West Ham in the cup as well. So realistically, I'm going for a draw. But let us know what you guys think in the comment section down below. Your thoughts and score predictions ahead of the game. As always, if you have enjoyed the content, make sure to leave a like and subscribe. And make sure to check out the opposition preview if you haven't already done so. When this is dropping, that'll probably be available. So check that out as we speak to a Brentford fan to ask what's going on. What's been the success of Brentford's season so far? So that's it from me and AJ. And until next time, up the Palace.